Hello, Chrissy here at A Little Glam, A Lot of Mom. Welcome back. And if you're new to this channel, welcome. Again, I'm Chrissy, and I am a homeschool mom of 5 from early elementary to senior high school. On this channel, I love sharing about our life of learning, motherhood, and a lot of books. In today's video, I turned my camera on while I plan a summer main lesson block on botany. So to preface, through the years, my homeschool planning has evolved just as our learning overall. And you'll see today that my planning is pretty unconventional and minimal. That's because in unschooling, the parent's role in planning is minimal compared to traditional education approaches. Instead of laying out structured daily lesson plans, unschooling encourages children to learn through their pace, interests, and curiosities. So you'll see today that my role here is to provide lots of resources, opportunities, and guidance within this topic and interest, and within the child's developmental stage. So I use the Homeschool Lesson Planning Minimalist Notebook by School Nest. You'll see that I barely fill in an entire page. In Waldorf education, botany is traditionally taught in grade 5, which is why we landed on this topic to end of the summer as Bella kicks off the fall semester as a rising 6th grader. However, there will be a lot of modifications for any other students who want to study as well. So my first step in planning is always taking inventory of the books and resources we have available in our home library for this topic. A Sea to Sleepy is one of our favorite nature book picture series. The infamous Nature Anatomy by Julia Rothman, great as a reference book and for inspiration for many of our main lesson pages. DK's The Magic Mystery of Trees. This is a unique reference book with a combination of nonfiction photography and illustrations. The same with DK Humongous Fungus, obviously about the fungi kingdom. DK's Trees, Leaves, Flowers, and Seeds, which goes hand in hand with another resource I'll mention here in a moment. And welcome to the Museum Botanicum and Fungarium, which I actually have down as 2 of our spines that we'll be utilizing for this block. Of course, our list of resources are never complete without a favorite field guide by National Audubon Society. This one is on mushrooms. Also taking inventory of our naturalist in history books, The Tree Lady, The Friar Who Grew Peas, and The Bluest of Blues, and we'll get back to these later. So once I've taken inventory of our books and I've flipped through them, then I can decide which will be our spines for this study. And that brings me to the sponsor of this video. I'm delighted to partner with Della at The Beauty of Play to bring you today's content. We have a special resource for botany, the Beauty of Play Botany Guide. This is a 78-page botany guide packed with activities and art projects. It has 12 lessons for exploring and discovering the world of plants. Although designed for children aged 8 to 12, the materials can be adapted for other age groups. So we have studied botany for many years in an unstructured way, yet also very much formal for my seniors who took a college level botany class last year. So there are several lessons, activities, and projects that we have done already. There are some that Bella and I have reviewed already and she hasn't shown any interest in, or that I think might be over her skill. So in general, I like to oversee the lessons in a guide like this and become familiar with the resource. Della is so wonderful to provide a book and supply list for what will be needed for this guide, and others are marked as optional. I always enjoy Della's introductory words on various topics. For example, here she covers a bit about all the spines and reading material to go with the guide. how-to narrations, illustrations, which are a big component to the learning in this guide as it's science meets art. The main lesson books, or also known as notebooking. I notice and I wonder prompting throughout the lessons, and I love how she uses this technique or this approach in homeschooling in general. Memory recall, and finally pace. So I want to share what the structure of a lesson looks like, and this is one Bella is highly interested in. It's one we've also done in the past, but with different seeds and without hydration crystals. Those really caught her attention. There is listed all the reading material with several options for spines and page numbers. So for example, we have reading here out of DK's Trees, Leaves, Flowers, and Seeds, pages 10 through 16. And out of this book, the text is manageable for Bella to read out loud for us, or for a shared reading between us both. I'll probably ask her if she wants to read out loud or encourage her to do so. However, for example, in Botanicum, where the text is a bit above her skill, I'd likely do all the reading out loud myself. There is a game suggested with Match a Leaf by Lawrence King Publishing. We have that game as well, so it's suggested that we play that. The discussion and the activity of the root observations, and the supplies are glass vials, Miracle-Gro hydration crystals, corn seed, and cucumber seed. Here you can see Della has included a link to her YouTube channel for a blog video of her family's root observation activity. And I will move past the lessons that I'm still not quite sure we'll be covering because of Bella's lack of interest, or just, again, I believe that are above her skill level. But one of our objectives within Botany are growing zones. We love geography and Bella loves map work. And so while we're here, I'll share the supplies for this lesson. Watercolors, we love Winsor and Newton. It's a professional line, therefore it tends to have a higher price tag for good reason. So for the younger years, we go with the Cotman line, which is the affordable line, if you will, within this brand. We prefer to use pigment in a tube and mix it with water in our beautiful set of glass jars and its wooden holder. We sourced this several years ago from Bella Luna Toys, and we prefer the pigment in a tube as opposed to dry pigments that you probably see most common and in a palette like this for use on watercolor paper anyway, especially in a wet on wet technique. The US map template is included as a printable in this guide. I'm also seeing vocabulary work in this guide, and I can really appreciate that. Although if it's not in a guide, we can usually source vocabulary list in the glossary of our books. So that's another tip. But this is just great, and it reminds me to add vocabulary to our objectives list. Vocabulary work is one of our favorite ways to interweave language arts into our main lesson blocks. It's reading comprehension, spelling and phonics, writing practice in using new words in a sentence, handwriting and copy work, speaking and listening as we discuss the words, their meaning, and proper pronunciation, grammar, parts of speech. And this is another reason I don't skip in the process of browsing through my books and guides and just any resources. This step really helps me in refining our objectives. I also include the students in this step. You may see throughout this video Bella just browsing in and out, her hands in and out of the resources here at our table, because we discuss their wants as well, including goals and projects and field trips. So a few other objectives. The vascular system objective and activity looks like something Bella and her siblings will enjoy as well. Following xylem and phloem with a celery dissection lab. We love anything dissection. Monica and Utica. We actually have not covered this classification system of flowering plants yet. While I'm super interested and excited for it, I'm curious to find out if Bella will be. And of course, poetry tea time. And I'll share later on. I have more resources and how we'll incorporate that. Photosynthesis, I'll be honest, out of all the projects in this guide, this art project, the wet on wet flower anatomy, is the one I'm looking forward to the most. Bella's also super eager for this one, and again, although we have studied botany for so long, the interconnectedness of art within the science guide is what has sparked her curiosity and a new perspective for botany. Finally, flower anatomy, although we've covered this several times, including dissecting a flower about 4 times now. It's one of their favorite dissections just because also it's pretty simple for the younger ages as well. I mean, Bella, Luna, and Noah were dissecting flowers and looking at them under a microscope. I'll see if I can find a picture of that. At about 4 years old, I'm pretty sure they'll want to dissect more flowers, let's be honest. It's just fun. There's a suggestion for flower pressing, which we also do quite often. We have some flowers in the press right now, actually. Some additional activity suggestions in here, like dyeing with plants, which is always fun. We've done that in the past with play silks and different fabrics like cotton and a variety of plants, sometimes more successful than others. Making a terrarium, and then, of course, all those lovely main lesson pages from Della and her family to use as inspiration. And before I close out the guide, I want to talk about the binding, or the lack of, actually, because I don't know, I feel like as a homeschool mom, I appreciate those little nuances. So I've decided to put this in a soft cover 3-ring binder, and I find these at Target. And what's unique about these is that in the back here, attached is an accordion file folder, which always comes in handy to hold in any loose items, like, for example, the templates for map work, or I've made these like mushroom visual discrimination cards a while ago, and I can store that in here, and just any other type of loose paper. Okay, the main lesson book is a major aspect of work. I purchased these main lesson books from achildsdream.com, and naturally I went with a green cover for botany, but there is an assortment of colors to choose from. The cover is stapled and made of a cardboard-like material. The paper is all purpose and it feels heavy. I believe it's 120 grams. The description says it's suitable for crayons, color pencils, charcoal ink, and Indian ink. So the paper is heavier and the size is larger in comparison to the main lesson book dupes, I guess we can call them, I purchase on Amazon. I usually buy these with the craft cardboard cover in packs of 4 for like $11 or $12. So it is a much cheaper option. The paper supports most ink as well, and I believe there are more pages per notebook. However, they are smaller in size. Another nice thing about the authentic Waldorf main lesson book is it's available in portrait and landscape formats. So I picked up 2 landscape, which are generally for younger children, and a portrait format for Bella. But the biggest difference is the onion skin in between pages, and this is so that your illustrations and the medium that you're using does not transfer from one page to the other, which does tend to happen to us in our main lesson books from Amazon. So Waldorf main lesson books are available in smaller sizes as well for the upper school years. This one here, for example, is one that my oldest daughter is using for entomology. We'll be utilizing colored pencils in our main lesson books for botany. I hauled these recently, the Prisma Premier pencils, super pigmented and buttery. They don't chip away like others do. completely worth the investment. We also use Falana beeswax block crayons, and this is how we frame the edges to our pages, and also how we make lines for our vocabulary and handwriting lines for our handwriting work in our main lesson pages. How do we get inspiration for our main lesson page illustrations? That's when we pull from all of these beautiful illustrative and reference books and picture books. So here, I'll show you an example of this process. Browsing our resources, I've already tapped off a few spreads here. This fern anatomy is perfect for the illustration and copy work in our main lesson page. I've been captivated by this rotting log spread for years, and I'd love to copy this into our main lesson books to show the relationship in trees and fungi. And so here I found another similar spread in DK's The Magic Mystery of Trees. This one, however, with more text for copy work. And so we'll find like an in-between and probably take from both for a main lesson spread showing the relationship. We find some inspiration from a picture book in A Seed is Sleepy by Diane Hutz Aston. So many stunning illustrations for seeds and root observations, buds, flowers, including the perfect inspiration for our corn seed root observation activity. All right, still on our main lesson book work. The last two resources here are to aid in free hand drawing in our main lesson books. Now, before I get into these, I want to add that I always have our basket of light up tracing pads available. Tracing pads are a wonderful tool for developing drawing skills, confidence building, and a stepping stone to freehand drawing. Okay, Peggy Dean's Guide to Nature Drawing and Watercoloring. Learn to sketch, ink, and paint flowers, plants, trees, and animals. So I've talked about this resource a lot in my nature journaling videos. Peggy Dean is known for her approachable and engaging teaching style, offers step-by-step instructions that are perfect for artists of all levels. So there is an entire part, it's titled Let's Go Learn Basic Drawing Techniques, and it covers shapes and curves, contour drawing, loose sketching, mark making, space, and perspective. And then in part 3, it goes into specifics objects found in nature, like the flower study and the plant study, which are beneficial here in our botany study. Of course, I encourage you not to skip through the introduction, which she covers through supplies, materials, color theory, and she goes into good detail, and then of course watercolor if that's the medium that you're using. But here you can just see all the detail to her drawing and sketching techniques. Another favorite is watercolor in nature. Paint woodland, wildlife, and botanicals with 20 beginner-friendly projects. And this guide offers step-by-step instructions and practical tips for artists of all levels, focusing on techniques to effectively render landscapes, plants, and wildlife. And while it does focus on the technique of watercoloring, again, there are just so many practical tips in here. Again, going through the same introduction on getting started, like tools and materials and techniques. Then when you get down to each tutorial on each specific object in nature, she does provide a step-by-step sketching tutorial. And so then we can follow that sketching tutorial and just stop when she gets to the watercoloring portion of the tutorial, like for this mushroom. But we can even take like the color palette from the watercoloring technique of the tutorial. I think this resource is still going to come in handy for us, even though we're not using a watercoloring technique in our main lesson books, and especially for anyone that might be. Alright friends, so this is where I have to close out this video because it's a very long video so far, but I do still have so much more to share, so look out for part 2 of planning a botany main lesson block. I hope that you were able to get an idea of my role in the planning process, and that it's more in providing the resources, enriching the environment, and guiding them through the process. And once again, thank you to Della at The Beauty of Play for sponsoring this video. Please be sure to check the description box of this video for all of the information on the botany guide and the link of where you can get that guide and to Della's website. If you haven't already, please be sure to hit the notification bell so that you can get notified of part 2 of this planning video, and subscribe. And thanks for your love.